Yo, what's going on guys, CultofMush back at it with another video, and in this video, I want to go over 5 PC games that have been released in 2016 that any PC can run. Okay, not any PC. If you got a PC from like the Stone Age, you probably can't run some of these games. Just in case, before I get into each of the games, I'm gonna go over its system requirements. 99% of you will be able to run these games, no problem. Even if you have a pre-built computer from 8 years to a decade ago, you should be able to run the majority of these games. So with that being said, let's get right into this with number 5. Number 5 is Salt and Sanctuary, and the minimum requirements for this game is an Intel Core 2 Duo at 2.8 GHz, 1 GB of RAM, and a DirectX 10 compatible video card. The recommended specs are a little bit higher, but I think most of you guys will be able to run this game. Salt and Sanctuary is a 2D action RPG where you play as a sailor that has been shipwrecked, and you're on this island and you have to fight in this side-scroller. Artistically, it looks really well. Obviously, it's not a technical marvel, but the art style is really great. A lot of people compare Salt and Sanctuary to Dark Souls, and I see where that comparison comes from. It's got the same levels of difficulty, a lot of the same thematics, and if you are a fan of Dark Souls, I would highly recommend checking Salt and Sanctuary out. You can pick it up for $18 on Steam, and if you're into Metroidvania-style games, you'll definitely enjoy Salt and Sanctuary. Moving on to number 4, we've got Danganronpa. This is one of my personal favorites. The minimum requirements, you will need Windows 7, so sorry for those of you that have anything older, you will need Windows 7. You'll need a 2.8 GHz Intel Core 2 Duo or better, 3 GB of RAM, and a DirectX non-compatible video card with at least 1 GB of VRAM. So this is probably the highest end game on this list, and even with those requirements, I think a lot of you guys will be perfectly fine running this game. And when you see Danganronpa on face value, you're probably thinking, what is this weeb trash? Mush always recommends these weeb-ass games, and I know there are a lot of weeb games on Steam, but Danganronpa is not something I would classify as weeb at all. Some of you guys might even be mad that I overuse the term weeb. You know what I'm saying, these kinds of games do have a stigma, like it or not. Danganronpa is this mystery horror visual novel. Yes, it is a visual novel, so there's not a lot of gameplay. The gameplay that is there is more of crime solving, looking for clues, and things like that. The game's got a very interesting and engaging story. I beat this game in 2 days, and that took me around 20 hours. It was just a really good game. The story takes a lot of twists and turns, and if you're a fan of story-driven games, please go play Danganronpa. It's a fantastic game. This was actually released on the PlayStation Vita a few years ago, and earlier this year it got ported over to PC. It's fantastic. Danganronpa 2 is also on Steam, which is also a great game. Obviously, go play the first game because they are very tied in terms of story. You can pick it up for $30 on Steam. Next up, we've got the Banner Saga 2. So the minimum requirements for Banner Saga 2, and this is what they list on Steam, it's Windows XP, 2 GB of RAM, and 4 GB of storage space. They don't even have a graphics card requirement listed. So the Banner Saga and the Banner Saga 2 are 2 games that I'm really surprised haven't really clicked with a lot of gamers. I know a lot of people that did play the game really enjoyed it, but it seems to me that not enough people have played the Banner Saga. It's an epic strategy tactics-based RPG revolving around Vikings. It's a very cool setting, the story is fantastic, the art design is some of the best you will see in any video game. Look at the Banner Saga 2's visuals, and yeah, it's up there with the best of them. The art direction is absolutely on point. The music is very good. Just at every area, Banner Saga is very good. And it's just a shame not enough people have played it. If you haven't played the first Banner Saga game, I would highly recommend go play that game, and then play the Banner Saga 2. You can get the first game very cheap, and you guys can thank me later. Next up, number 2 is Factorio. The minimum requirements on this game, a dual-core CPU, 1.5 GHz, 2 GB of RAM, and a video card with 512 megabytes. You'll also need 512 megabytes to store the game. So Factorio is an early access game that has gained a lot of steam. If you look at the Steam reviews, there's nearly 10,000 of them, and it's 98% positive. Factorio is a really cool game where you build and create automated factories to protect them from hostile aliens. Sounds pretty generic from my description, but Factorio is anything but that. It's addictive, complex, and just a well-made game, even being in early access. The game also has a really active modding community, and you can even create your own maps with a map editor. For $20, it's an excellent game, and I would highly recommend you to check it out. And finally, number 1, it's Stardew Valley. The minimum requirements on this game is a 2 GHz processor, 2 GB of RAM, 256 megabytes of video memory, and 500 megabytes to store the game, and you'll need DirectX 10. So the comparison you'll hear with Stardew Valley the most is Harvest Moon and Rune Factory. And that comparison definitely holds true, but it's a great game in its own right. Stardew Valley takes elements from a lot of different games, mixes them together, and creates an exceptional video game. Sure, from a graphical standpoint, you might be thinking this game looks like ass. It really doesn't. If you played games back on the Super Nintendo, the art style really goes back to games like that. And personally, while playing the game, I just thought it was a really good looking game, maybe not in the conventional way, but I thought the design of the game was very good. But that's not Stardew Valley's strength. The gameplay is where it's at. It's so diverse and there's so many different things to do that Stardew Valley always seems fresh and never really repetitive. And that's a very hard thing for games to do, especially these days. It's very hard to be fresh and always keeping the player engaged, but Stardew Valley does a good job at that. The music is also quite good. If you enjoyed games like Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley will be right up your alley. But if you never played any of those games, still give Stardew Valley a shot. I know for some of you younger gamers, maybe the graphical style puts you off. Honestly, in my opinion, the game looks a lot better in motion when you're actually playing it. It's a really gorgeous game to look at. Just like with a lot of these games, it's just not the conventional way of having great visuals. You can pick it up for $15 on Steam, and it's a great pickup, highly recommended. So that's gonna wrap up this video. I know for a lot of you guys, these games aren't probably very appealing. A lot of you guys probably do have pretty good PCs and pretty good graphics cards and you're looking to play the most visually appealing games, but don't turn your back on games like these, and especially if you're the kind of guy that doesn't have that great of a PC, these games will be able to be ran on just about anything, and they're still very good games and well worth your time and money. So as always guys, thanks for watching. If you have a request for a future video, leave it in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.